Welcome back, focused learners. I am absolutely thrilled you're here for today's explainer, because honestly, we're tackling a massive headache for anyone who builds products or manages projects. Seriously, if you've ever felt like your product roadmap is just, well, a list of opinions dressed up as strategy, you are totally in the right place. Today, we're talking about transforming those gut feel roadmaps into a data-backed reality. And our secret weapon? We're going to supercharge the industry standard RICE framework using artificial intelligence. We're finally moving away from guessing and stepping into an era of synthesizing actual reality.
Okay, let's dive right in. Here's our four-part agenda to fix those prioritization workflows today. First, the RICE guessing game. Then, the confidence crisis. Third, the AI-augmented workflow. And finally, avoiding the incremental trap. Let's go!
All right, Section 1, the RICE guessing game and dealing with opinion-based roadmaps.
We really have to start by acknowledging that shared pain we all feel when it's time to decide what to build next. Let me ask you, are you totally tired of prioritization meetings that feel like literal guessing games? Because you know the ones I'm talking about. Every single stakeholder brings their absolute must-have feature to the table, and without a solid system, what happens? The person with the most authority, the classic hippo, the highest-paid person's opinion, or honestly just the most persistent person in the room, ends up dictating the entire roadmap. It's frustrating, it's incredibly inefficient, and let's face it, it rarely leads to the best product outcomes.
Now that exact frustration is exactly why the RICE framework was created by the team over at Intercom. It's pretty brilliant in its simplicity, and it's quickly become the gold standard for scaling teams. RICE basically breaks down feature requests into four distinct categories. Reach, how many users will this actually affect? Impact, what is the outcome or the real benefit? Confidence, how much solid data do we have to back this up? And effort, what is it actually going to cost us to build? By forcing everyone to use these four specific metrics, you create this universal, objective language for value. It's a real game changer.
And the best part? This framework actually works. Organizations that implement structured frameworks like RICE report a 25% reduction in the time they spend in those agonizing meetings arguing over what to build next. 25%. I mean, that is a massive chunk of time given back to your team to actually build, rather than just argue. It forces you to quantify your assumptions. But, as we're about to see, even the best tools out there have a glaring human-sized flaw.
Which brings us to Section 2, the confidence crisis, or getting the math wrong. So, if RICE is so great, why do our roadmaps still kind of feel wrong? Well, the data is pretty revealing here. According to the 2024 Product Management Report by Product Plan, a staggering 62% of product managers still struggle to balance business goals with customer requests. And that's even with frameworks like RICE in place. The source material points to one specific culprit in the RICE formula: the confidence component. I mean, think about it. When you're sitting in a meeting and someone asks for your confidence score on a feature, be honest, you often just pick a number that feels right simply to avoid looking unprepared, right?
Because when your inputs are based on passing anecdotes, like, oh, a customer complained about this yesterday, rather than hard evidence, your entire RICE score completely loses its integrity. As the source material perfectly puts it, it becomes nothing more than a biased guess wrapped in a spreadsheet. You're essentially building a high-effort roadmap on a really shaky foundation of "I think so," and that is the confidence crisis in a nutshell. The math itself is elegant: reach times impact times confidence divided by effort. But if your inputs are basically just creative writing exercises, the output is totally useless.
We absolutely have to move away from this painful before state of gut feel inputs driven by loud stakeholders. We need to step into the empowering after state, which is AI-augmented reality. Listen, AI is not here to replace you, it's here to replace the guesswork. We can actually use AI to turn passive data into defensible evidence. You aren't just calculating a score anymore, you are literally synthesizing reality.
Let's get into Section 3, the AI-augmented workflow and how we start automating those inputs.
So how do we actually pull this off? Well, it's time to fix the math and introduce the AI-augmented product manager. If you want to move from gut feel to data-driven, here is your precise four-step playbook. We're gonna automate impact, validate reach, cross-reference effort, and finally, conduct a confidence audit. Basically, we're taking the classic elements of RICE and attaching real AI-driven workflows right to each of them. Let's see how this builds. Let's systematically break down this transformation letter by letter. For reach, we're moving away from traditional guessing and instead pulling active user data from platforms like Amplitude or Pendo.
For impact, we drop the subjective feelings and start analyzing sentiment directly from tools like Zendesk or Viable. For confidence, we shift from blind optimism to having a large language model actually scan our documentation. And for effort, instead of pressuring your engineers for on-the-spot estimates, and we all know how painful that is, we use an LLM to analyze your past Jira sprint velocity. So in practice, what does this look like? It means connecting your support tickets to an AI tool to cluster user pain points for your impact score. It looks at the pure volume and the sentiment to give you a real, weighted number. For reach, AI identifies exactly how many active users are currently visiting the module you want to update. For effort, feeding your requirements into an LLM that's trained on your team's historical Jira data gives you grounded estimates based on reality, not on what an engineer blurts out when they're put on the spot. And my absolute favorite part, the confidence audit. You have an AI scan your feature documentation, and if it detects a lack of actual user validation, it automatically suggests a lower confidence score. It brilliantly acts as a ruthless, objective mirror for your own optimism.
Now for our final section, number 4, avoiding the incremental trap and knowing exactly when to ignore the numbers.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, great, the AI does all the math, I just blindly follow the spreadsheet. But wait, hold on a second. A purely quantitative roadmap is actually highly dangerous. The incremental trap is exactly what it sounds like. If you just blindly follow those RICE scores, mathematically, the formula is always going to favor small, safe, low-effort features that provide marginal, guaranteed gains. If you only let the spreadsheet dictate your moves, you will inevitably optimize your way into a completely boring product. Think about those big, bold moonshots for a second. Those game-changing features usually have super low initial reach and require incredibly high effort. They are almost impossible to justify with a spreadsheet. Relying solely on the math literally kills your ambition.
So it begs the question, when should you actually ignore the numbers? Honestly, this is probably the most important lesson of this entire explainer. AI is incredibly powerful, for sure. It's a fantastic co-pilot for optimizing your day-to-day decisions. But let's be totally clear, it is not the boss of your product vision.
The crucial point is summarized perfectly by the Harvard Business Review. They note that human intuition remains critical for long-term strategic vision. You haven't outsourced your brain to the AI, you've simply freed it up from doing all that tedious manual guesswork. If a feature feels like an absolute game changer, but the AI and the math are both screaming no because the effort is too high and the reach is too low, well, you must have the courage to treat it as a strategic exception. At the end of the day, you still steer the ship.
I really want to leave you with a highly actionable takeaway so you can apply this right away. Don't go trying to overhaul your entire roadmap tomorrow. Start small. Pick exactly one feature in your upcoming sprint cycle. And instead of just relying on your team's gut feeling, use an AI tool to validate just its reach and its impact. Take a hard look at your passive data. You'll be absolutely amazed at how much clarity you get and honestly, how much faster you get stakeholder buy-in when defensible data finally does the talking for you. By automating that data collection, you're providing a totally transparent map of exactly why you're building what you're building. Which leaves us with this final exciting thought. If AI is in the background handling all that tedious guesswork and defending your day-to-day roadmap, what bold, game-changing moonshot will your newly freed up mind have the clarity to build next? It's time to stop guessing, start synthesizing reality, and get back to building amazing things. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, Focus Learners. Now go out there and put this into practice.